everyone, welcome back to Phat Pack Magic. The cube is charged up and ready to fire, and we are following Bobby in a Phat Pack Magic Vintage Cube Draft. So let's see what he has to open up, and... oh, how nice, he's putting the cube majig back together for me. And man, this is a juicy pack just off the start. Treachery, Strip Mind, and a MOX Jet. That sounds like the pack one, pick one right there. But what an awesome batch of cards he's going to be passing to the side. But still, you can't pass the MOX Jet. The MOX Jet, and here's the crazy thing. They pick their own packs, and somehow this MOX Jet loves to see itself on stream constantly. Constantly. And I'm not that bothered by it because it looks so pretty. This is one of the alters that I had done by Scourge Alters, and I love it. It's the first part of the cycle that we had completed. The second one was MOX Pearl. And as you can see, this is Yawgmoth holding the MOX Jet, and I'm just so happy with how this came out. But for Bobby, I'm sure he's more happy than I am right now because a pack... what the hell? Wow! Okay, Library of Alexandria, that's pretty good, but Times Twister and Grim Monolith, wow! And, so... I later learned that that pack contained a Black Lotus. So, wow. Awesome pack 2, pick 2, Bobby. That was pretty good. Library of Alexandria. But here we are on pack 3. And Bobby is deciding on what he wants to follow up his amazing 2 picks with. Hopefully something almost as good. I mean, we've got some good stuff in here. Thirst for Knowledge is fine. Shallow Grave, Liliana of the Dread Horde. She's more, I'm sure she'll wheel around, but looks like he's eyeing that Signet there. And, I mean, that's pretty fine. Mana fixing is really strong in this cube, and it's really good for the early picks because there's a lot of multicolor. So, I don't know about the Kargan Dragon Lord, but I would be fine with that Signet there, or maybe the Shallow Grave if he wants to dip into Reanimator. He's got the ability to do it with MOX Jet. It'd be an on-color MOX. But he's taking a look at that Thirst for Knowledge, or maybe the Signet. And it looks like he's going to pick the Orzhov Signet, saying that he's not directly committed to Black-White, but he's open to the idea. And there's Sorin and an Eldrazi, Emrakul of the Promised End. And Bitter Blossom. I would really love that Bitter Blossom personally. It's definitely an open pick. It kind of wins the game on its own. But there's also that Bloodstained Mire, and fetches are really strong in this cube as well. A lot of players usually tend to grab mana fixing as soon as possible, especially with this cube and their play group. But Bobby's got to make a decision quick, because here's another pack on the right. And it looks like he's going to take the Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. And that's a pretty good pick, I think. I mean, it's a strong Planeswalker. He can get it out early. And it goes in line with what he's doing with that Orzhov Signet. Now we've got a Spawn of Mayhem here, a Reflecting Pool, a Gideon, the Black Blade, which is a 3-drop, and definitely more of an aggressive pick. That Spawn of Mayhem is pretty strong, but I don't think he's in the aggressive situation enough to really make use of the 3-drop ability yet. I mean, he could hit it up and take some of those early 1-drops. Like, Selfless Spirit is going pretty late here at pick 5. I mean, well, that's not too late, you know. I mean, if you're white aggro, usually you tend to want to wheel and see what goes on. But I think, oh, no, he's going to go for the Throat. Well, he's going to go for the Throat. And here we go. Here's some more aggressively costed creatures. There's a Putrid Imp, if he wants to kind of try and go to the Reanimator plan. He saw a Shallow Grave. He's seen an Eldrazi, the Emrakul, the Promised End. And here's Brimaz as well, but he's going to go for the Cast Down, which is just efficient removal. And he pulls a Never Return up to the front, and he's just grabbing up all the black removal he can. Now, I really would have liked the Brimaz there, but the double white might just be too hard on him. And he's going for the Never Return, which is going to be pretty strong in that it hits Planeswalkers, and it has a little bit of an upside later in the game where you can exile a card and make a 2/2 zombie. It's not too relevant, but sometimes it just happens. And there's Dark Confidant, and Vindicate, and Hero's Downfall. I really like the Dark Confidant here. He's not in too much of a high curve to make use of it. So, although if he flips over that Never Return, it might cause problems for him. But still, Dark Confidant is a premier black pick. And I don't like that he's not pulling it up to the front. But he's going to take Hero's Downfall. Never mind. He's going to look over his stuff again. And maybe he's going to take that Dark Confidant. Come on, Bobby, take the Dark Confidant. It looks so pretty. No, he's going to opt for the Vindicate instead. And a fine pick. I mean, it's the label of the Vindicate test. But there's an Elspeth. But he's looking at the Castigate. And he's going to take the Castigate over the Elspeth. It doesn't seem like he's wanting to go in more of a black-white, but a black with a white splash. Now, there's a Fatal Push and a Mesmeric Fiend left in the pack with a Condemn as well. 3 cards that Bobby would love in his deck, and he's going to go for the Mesmeric Fiend. And wow, the Council's Judgment wheeled, and he's going to take that without even thinking about it. Council's Judgment is an incredibly powerful card in this cube, essentially a Vindicate, but the fact that it doesn't target means that it gets around Hexproof, it gets around Shroud, and specifically, it gets around True Name Nemesis, which is one of the major hitters for blue in this cube. But just going through his pack 1, that is a juicy pack 1. MOX, then Library of Alexandria means that he's going to be pretty efficient with his plays. So, I guess one of the cards that I think he would like to see wheel would be just maybe some creatures. But there's Armageddon, there's Domin's Veto, and Arbor Elf, and Najeela the Blade Blossom. Now, Armageddon could be really good here. I mean, it's going to stymie the white weenie decks that he's trying to get in, and I think it would be a solid pick because, wow! Selfless Spirit and Gideon Blackblade wheeled. Now, that's a signal. I love the Gideon Blackblade here. Bobby isn't super committed to double black all the time, so maybe he could get a little bit of white mana fixing and just be good to go. There hasn't been any white-based fetch lands opened up or seen throughout these packs, but here's Pyroclasm and PNR and a last pick of Dryad Arbor. Man, what a pack 1. Mox Jet, Library of Alexandria, Aura's Hubsicket, Sorin Lord of Innistrad, Go for the Throat, Cast Down, Never Return, Vindicate. Some just awesome stellar cards that'll set Bobby in the black-white deck. And let's see what Pack 2 has to offer. There's Pack Rat and Iona if he wants to go into Reanimator. But the Putrid Imp and a lot of the Reanimator cards have gone through and Bobby has passed them. If only he had taken a few of them, he'd be really good to go here. But he's going to snag a Pack Rat, and he's going to be passing a sick Reanimator deck with Shallow Grave, Putrid Imp, the Exhume, and Iona in this pack. So, one person's going to be trying to do the deck, and the other person, you know, they might get there. I mean, Exhume and Iona in the same pack is definitely hard, because if you see it on the wheel and somebody's taking the Exhume or the Iona, you kind of want to take the other piece and not let them have it. But Pack Rat for Bobby in pick 1 is solid here. Pack Rat definitely a card that can win the game on its own. And here we go. Here's Splinter Twin up at the front. There's Liliana, Vendilion Click, but there's Rankle. And Rankle is basically a Liliana on legs with a hit, and he's got flying and haste, evasion, and just the ability to come out swinging. Man, he is Liliana on legs, basically being able to kind of control your opponent's creatures and their hand size. But he's going to go for Liliana, the Last Hope, who's a strong defensive walker. She's able to kind of nuke some of the 1-mana dorks that Green likes to play, Also, just being able to get a little bit of advantage by pulling a creature from your graveyard back to your hand, a pack rat in this case. But there's balance, and then a batter skull. Wow, an entomb. I definitely love, and necromancy here. There's just so much in this pack that Bobby could grab, and the entomb and the necromancy in the same pack. Somebody's gonna have a hard time drafting Reanimator, but Bobby goes for the batter skull. A solid, efficient card, and that's just what Bobby has been pulling today. Solid, efficient cards. And Batter Skull is going to be awesome, especially if you can get the Stoneforge Mystic. We haven't seen that yet, and it's pick 3. So hopefully he might be able to get there. But there's Liliana the Veil, Elspeth, Path to Exile, and I think Liliana the Veil is the correct pick here. I'm surprised it went this far. But maybe if Liliana the Veil went this far, he might be able to pick up Rankle on the wheel. So, you know, awesome pro tips to you, Bobby. There's Buried Alive and Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, and Mirror Battlesphere. All the Reanimators just coming around in pack 2, and hopefully somebody can pick it up. And there's a Looter of Ilkor, who would be able to kind of work with that Reanimator build. Question is, does Bobby want to take a chance for it this late in pack 2? But also in there is a Hollowed Fountain, so blue-white is also open. I don't think Bobby's going to be going for that, but I like the Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger here because, I mean, he might be able to start squeaking out some Reanimator goings, but there's a Phyrexian Arena, and in the middle of a pack with not much for him, that arena is going to be solid, especially with his Library of Alexandria and his pack rat, which is going to be munching and fueling cards. Phyrexian Arena is a super strong card, and for a black-white deck which has some access to life gain, it's going to be very powerful. Especially if he decides to play that Armageddon, because he'll just be able to draw out of the lands and all the problems that he's going to have with it. But there's Ruinous Path and a Porcelain Legionnaire and a Maze of Ith. I like the Porcelain Legionnaire here, although Bobby isn't in too much of a solid aggro strategy, but still Porcelain Legionnaire can kind of just fill in the blanks, be a solid 23rd, 24th card, and maybe just give him a little bit of gas to run off of. But it looks like he's playing for a more mid-rangey control-y build, and the Ruinous Path might be solid here. I mean, a lot of the threats that he's going to face are going to be creature and planeswalker based, and I think Ruinous Path is a very strong play here. And there is Dance of the Dead and Thalia Heretic Cathar. Now, Thalia Heretic Cathar is going to be slowing down plays, but I don't think it's going to beat out Dance of the Dead here. Mainly because Bobby did draft the Ulamog, so maybe he can wheel some way to put in. I mean, he already has a way to put in his graveyard with the. Wait, never mind. He's not going to go with Dance of the Dead, but Bobby can chuck that Ulamog to his pack rat and be confident with that. But maybe he wants the Thalia Heretic Cathar, or maybe he's going to try and go for more of a black-red splash. No, it looks like he's deciding between the Heretic Cathar and the Dance of the Dead. And he's counting up how much white he has. He hasn't drafted a lot of white, but he's drafted a good chunk of like white-black cards. So maybe the double white is just going to be too hard for him to justify, especially in a deck with lots of double black. Now it looks like, yep, he's going to go for the Dance of the Dead rather than the Thalia Heretic Cathar. And here we go on the wheel. There's Sign in Blood, solid wheel, and oh man, the Rankle did not wheel, but looks like there's a Solemn Simulacrum and a Collective Brutality, and he's going to go for the Collective Brutality, which is going to fuel his reanimation strategy. And there's Entomb! There's Entomb and Tide Hollow Sculler. Now, if he's going to go deeper on the reanimation strategy, I totally see Entomb here. He doesn't have any of the other reanimator spells, just Dance of the Dead, but still, Dance of the Dead on a 10/10 creature that's going to exile 20 cards when it swings. Oh, and it's going to get +1/+1 from the Dance of the Dead. That's pretty solid, and he's got a good amount of cards that he can, just reanimate off of it. But that Tidehollow Scholar is going to also do some damage in being able to kind of strip his opponent's hand. He's got the Castigate. I do like the Tidehollow Scholar here. It's going to get him a little bit more board presence, and it's a 2/2, but the Entomb is going to go more with his reanimation strategy. And there's Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and Path to Exile, and Deathrite Shaman. And then Buried Alive Wield. And there's a Palace Jailer and a Handwear Garrison as Bobby rounds out Pack 2 with pick 15. And we take a look at his picks. Wow. So he's definitely angling more into direct black, more of a mono black with a white splash rather than straight Orzhov. He's got some solid picks. He's got a good bit of fixing. I think in Pack 3, what he would love to see is a Black Lotus, Mox Pearl, any of the other Moxes, that'd be fine. Soul Ring, but on a realistic level, I think he would love to see just some black-white fixing, maybe like a Godless Shrine or a late Scrubland. But here we go, into Pack 3. There's a Glensieve Siphoner, Cogwork Librarian, Gonti. Gonti is pretty solid here. But he's pulled the Cogwork Librarian to the front. And there's the Glensieve Siphoner as well. Glensieve is going to be pretty good, but he's going to go with the Cogwork Librarian, which is going to let him have a double pick later in the draft. Normally, this is really strong in the earlier picks because you can actually save the Cogwork Librarian from pack to pack. So if you get it in Pack 1, you can save it up into Pack 3 and, Pack 2, Pack 3. So Bobby decides that there's not enough in there to warrant him going for anything other than the Cogwork Librarian. And sometimes there just might be some... wow! That pack is stacked with blue with a Mana Drain. Man, if Bobby was in blue-white, that Cogwork Librarian would be awesome right now. Grab a Mana Drain and a Sphinx's Revelation. But it looks like Recurring Nightmare is the solid pick here. And he's got, a little bit of a reanimation theme going. So, he can use a couple of tokens. He can use the Germ. The Sorin will net him some tokens just to have that Ulamog keep coming back and becoming a problem for his opponent in the later game. Oh, and, if his Pack Rat ever, bends the yard, unfortunately, without a way to, pull it back, sure, he can Recurring Nightmare it back into play. And there's also a Danto Vanguard in that pack, and maybe the Burial Rites, because he's splashing white anyways, but I think the Recurring Nightmare is the strongest pick here. And there's Mind Twist! Wow, that's a late Mind Twist! Pack 3, yeah, whatever. That's a great pickup for Bobby right here. He doesn't have a lot of fast mana to really make a lot of use of it, but still, a turn 3 Mind Twist for 3 with his Mox can just utterly end the game by stripping his opponent of 3 cards, usually leaving them with whatever they have on board. But here's Parallax Wave, Mother of Runes, and Sword of Feast and Famine. I really like the Mother of Runes here. Maybe the Sword. Just for him to kind of get a little bit extra pressure on there. Because his deck seems to just needs a little bit more of a push in a creature space. And just in terms of threats. Pack Rat's a threat, but he's got to draw it first. So he needs something else to kind of keep his deck going. I think the Mother of Runes or the Sword would be really strong here, though. Sword of Feast and Famine, an incredible card. Basically, giving you another turn to just kind of empty your hand. But he's going to go with the Mind Stone, which is solid here, especially if he wants to kind of, it's a draw card kind of card. So that's fine. And, he can kind of ramp into his Mind Twist with it. Turn 1 Mox land, with Mind Stone, turn 2 Mind Twist for 3. I mean, that seems fine, right? Like, I'm not wrong here. That seems fine. And, ooh, Kite Sail Freebooter, especially if he wants to go on that discard plan, but there's a Reanimate. And History of Benalia. Now, I love History of Benalia, but it doesn't seem like he's got enough white going, and a lot of his white is just double white. And he hasn't found much of any fixing yet. He passed on the herb board, but he's going to take a Kite Sail Freebooter and a Reanimate with his Cogwork Librarian. So, I mean, and that Cogwork was getting pretty late. It's pick 5 already, and the wheel is on its way. So anything that he may have wanted to pick, that might just be it. And here we go. Pick 6. There's a Midnight Reaper, which will give a ton of value to all of his cards that he's already drafted, especially the Pack Rat, because the Pack Rat, wait, nope. Whenever, although I could be, I think it's non-token, so it may not count, but I think it's a creature, so we'll have to see what he picks. But I do think the Midnight Reaper would be really strong with his deck. It depends here. Depends on if I'm right about it being a non-token creature or just any time a creature dies. But here's Midnight Reaper, and that's going to be the pick. And it's non-token. And there's Life and Death, basically another Reanimate spell for Bobby. But there's also a sword. There's also Kithian, Flicker Wisp. I mean, Mono White has just been making the rounds here and kind of passing through. And I think maybe Bobby is considering whether or not he wants to take some more white or if he wants to just hedge deeper into black and use Tectonic Edge to kind of angle off his opponent's mana base, while his mana base would just be strong in the mono black sense. But Life and Death are, Life basically wouldn't be played. It would just be another Reanimate spell for Bobby to pull up that Ulamog. And as it seems, it looks like he's all in on the Reanimate spell. He's gotten there really late. Buried Alive, Entomb, 3 Reanimate spells. All he needs is just another bomb creature, and Bobby is going to be running away with whatever game he's in. But there's a Verdant Catacombs, Mortify, and a Damnation. And Damnation, if he's going on for the reanimation plan, which it looks like, but wow, there's Gonti and there's Glint Sea Siphoner. Both of them wheeled. Now, which one does he pick? I do like the Glint Sea Siphoner, just the early game plan. The fact that it has Menace and can just start drawing cards is really strong. But Gonti has a thing where he could whiff or he could be really, really good. And it doesn't look like Bobby is stacked to the brim with 4-drops. His 2-drops are a little light, but if he can go like Reanimate or Entomb, then Reanimate, then he's fine. But I do like the Glint Sea here. He's got 2 of the exile a card from opponent's hand cards, which are really good, which will allow him to kind of get there with his big bomb dude, unless they draw removal. But Bobby has pretty much determined that he's going to take as much removal as possible, and he goes with the Gonti in hopes that his opponent's library is better than his own. And he takes up a late Unburial Rites as well, and there's Monastery Mentor. But there's also a couple other cards in there as well that he may not want to play against. And one of them is Hero of Oxen Ridge. But wow, look at that super late Mother of Runes that he's going to take Earthcraft. Never mind, he's going to take the Mother of Runes. And there's Aven Mind Sensor, which is fine because it's a 1 white creature. And Magister of Worth. And then let's take a look at his last pick. Now, Magister of Worth is really strong. She's a Wrath effect. She's in his colors. And being able to wipe the board, it doesn't look like Bobby is on a black aggro plan, but more for a control Reanimator build. And his last pick is Soldier of the Pantheon, But man, oh man, what a draft! I am so excited to see what Bobby has in store for us when he builds his deck. And that's it for this time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check us out on Instagram. Hit that like button, subscribe, get the notification bell going on YouTube. And hey, if you like supporting content like this, check us out on Patreon. Until next time, may all your packs be fat.